So I'm not even going to pretend to be measured in my response to Milo Yiannopoulos being possibly fired from Breitbart. He lost his book deal with Simon and Schuster, and he has been disinvited to CPAC. I don't really care about CPAC because CPAC is what is it, conservative, whatever they actually stand for. But it's kind of drivel anyway. It's a convention of conservative shills. But he was to headline or be a keynote speaker at CPAC, and he has been disinvited all because of a very disturbing video. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I really struggle with whether or not I was going to play the video because it is disturbing. When you listen to it, there's a lot of profanity, which is not the big deal because I cuss a lot here, but it deals with the question of pedophilia and the question of the age of consent. And the video, you can judge for yourself, but the video is clearly, in my opinion, of Milo tacitly endorsing. Actually, no, let me choose my words a little more precisely. Tacitly condoning pedophilia. And you can decide for yourself if you think that's what he said or if that's not what he said, whatever. But enough people believe that that's what happened to the extent that it became a big deal. Now, to context, this conversation actually took place on a YouTube channel about a year ago. It's called The Drunken Peasants with the Amazing Atheists. And once you watch the video and you listen, you're going to hear the host. They can barely take the conversation as it was happening live. So I'm going to play it for you. And warning, if you have kids around, 100% turn off the show. Or send your kids to the other room. So I'm going to talk a little bit more to give you about 30 seconds to send your kids. I know I have kids that listen to the show, but send them to the other room because it is really disturbing. And then there are a lot of questions about whether or not Milo was a victim or the victimizer. I'm really just stalling to give you a chance to let your kids leave. All right. So if you're listening at this point, that means you have dismissed your kids from the room, or you're not listening. So here we go. I'm going to play it for you. It is long, so I'm going to stop and start, and we'll just kind of dissect it as we go. But this is Milo on the Drunken Peasants discussing and this is what ultimately got him kicked, banned everywhere.
I do have to wonder. If Milo is okay with
It's
adults
this guy.
getting their cocks sucked by 14-year-olds, what would happen if a 14-year-old wanted to?
Yeah, look at him. Holy shit.
Is that me without my glasses on? Hold on.
It does look like Paul.
Now, I'm playing it in full context. I paused it momentarily because I want you to know there's a lot of conversations going on in the background. Those are the hosts. They're discussing a video of someone discussing Milo. Now, Milo is in this video. He's live with the host, and he's going to chime in momentarily. So let's keep listening.
It's British Paul.
It's British Paul with hair.
Can we put some aviators on him? Can we put some aviators and a hooker in his hand? Can we see what he looks like?
Someone can do that. Audience, make that for Milo.
The whole consent thing for me is once it's not this black and white thing that people try and paint it.
All right, the voice you're hearing now, for those of you who don't know, that's one of the hosts of the Drunken Peasants. And I'm doing this mainly for the radio audience. I know on YouTube you could actually see this. But for the radio audience, you're getting ready to hear one of the Drunken Peasants hosts explain his take on consent. And then immediately following this, you're going to hear Milo's take.
Are there some 13-year-olds out there capable of giving informed consent to have sex with an adult? Probably. But I was also a 13-year-old. I hung around with 13-year-old guys, when I was 13, and there were some of them that still thought girls were fucking icky at 13. Like, not many, but they were just coming out of that phase. I don't know that I was ready at 13 to get fucked in the ass by a 28-year-old black drag queen, is what I'm saying. So you can't. The reason these age of consent laws exist is because we have to set some kind of a barometer here. We've got to pick an age and go, okay, look, this is the age where we can reasonably be assured you're an adult, you can give informed consent, you understand the risks and pregnancy risks and all that bullshit.
the law is probably about right. That's probably roughly the right age. I think it's probably about okay. But there are certainly people who are capable of giving consent at a younger age. I certainly consider myself to be one of them. People who are sexually active younger. I think it particularly happens in the gay world, by the way. And in many cases, actually, those relationships with older men. This is one of the. This is one of the reasons I hate the left. This sort of stupid, one size fits all policing of culture. This sort of arbitrary
Milo.
This arbitrary.
Let him talk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be quick. This arbitrary and oppressive idea of consent, which totally destroys, the understanding that many of us have of the complexities and subtleties and complicated nature of many relationships. People are messy and complex, and actually, in the homosexual world, particularly, some of those relationships between younger boys and older men, the sort of coming of age relationships, the relationships in which those older men help those young boys to discover who they are and give them security and safety and provide them with love and a reliable and sort of a rock where they can't speak to their parents. Some of those relationships are some of the most
molestation to me. It sounds
well,
like
you know what?
It sounds like Catholic priest molestation to me.
And you know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him.
Oh my God! I can't handle it.
It's funny because
what is wrong with you, Ben?
Ben gave me some homework on you, Milo. He gave me a few videos.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. And I'm at the 158 mark just mentally. All right, I have to. Let me address this from what stands out, and actually in order of the highly problematic things that he said here. Now, again, full transparency, I'm dancing on his political grave. Milo, long time ago, should have been out of sight of the discourse in America, but conservatism is so desperate to have a hero and to have a rebellious hero or someone that they can deem cool that they accepted this pig. They accepted this fascist, Nazi, pedophilic condoning pig, pedophilia condoning pig. And so shame on you, conservatism. But there's something he said at the beginning that I wanted to chime in on Twitter today, but I couldn't because of the complexities and the subtleties of the conversation. One, this is not what I wanted to chime in on, but Milo is so full of himself, right? And, just because you can say something disgustingly intelligently, actually, no, let me fix that. Just because you can say something disgusting intelligently does not change the fact what you said is both disgusting and should be relegated to the dregs of our society. And I use intelligently loosely because, big words isn't, and not even big words, but his tone and his mannerisms and his sense of condescension matched with his particular vocabulary choice makes him seem as though to conservatives that he's intelligent. I always laugh at the idea that Milo is an intellectual on the right because his arguments, just regardless of how he presents it, his arguments have always been fatuous at best. Now, that set aside, the first thing that I wanted to chime in on with regard to Milo is how carelessly he throws the entire LGBTQ community under the bus with regard to this long-standing belief that homosexuality equals pedophilia. I am not gay. I am not a part of the LGBTQ community with the exception of being the best ally that I can be. But one thing I do know because of my time in church, my time in religious circles, is that there is this conflation, this willingly obtuse conflation between homosexuality and pedophilia. And it is one of the reasons you have so many people who would fight until they die against gay couples being able to adopt children because of this assumption that gay people are automatically pedophiles. And here, Milo casually and callously throws the entire gay community under the bus because of his twisted ideology. And the reason that bothers me so much is because I saw it firsthand. I saw preachers and pastors. I saw activists I've even done videos on it. This is the guy from Orlando, the pastor from Orlando, or the pastor from California who was discussing the massacre at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, casually laughing about the murders of almost 50 people, if not more, because he considered them pedophiles simply because they were gay. Milo does not care about anybody except himself and his money and the money he can make off of being the most disgusting, quote unquote, dangerous individual he could possibly be. Because if you had any regard for that fight, you would not take your perversion and imbue it on his pedophilic musings. That is twisted. That is perverse. And he imbues that onto the entire gay community without any regard to the fact that that's one of the long-standing stereotypes from religious circles and one of the number one reasons people fight against children being adopted by gay couples. Never mind the fact that children are growing up in foster homes without the ability to have parents because straight couples, not enough straight couples to actually adopt all of these kids. There's so many kids. And so because of this stereotype, we have thousands of children who will never have homes except for in state custody. And there's so many problems that have to be discussed about that alone, that once he said that, I'm like, this guy not only doesn't care about anyone besides himself, but he is absolutely a threat to, and and everybody's like, oh yes, he's a threat. Yay, that's what we want. No, he is harmful to the very community that he draws an identity that gives him the unique footing inside of the conservative movement. In other words, he benefits from being the gay voice in the conservative movement, and yet he throws the gay community underneath the bus without any regard to their actual fight. All right, that's the first part.